Call of Duty Zombies comic number 5 dropped yesterday, and in it we see our characters continue their journey to get the Chronorium and the rest of the sequences to follow. But one thing that was particularly interesting was the fact that we see that Stullinger ends up reading part of the Chronorium for himself. And as we know, Jason Blundell mentioned a little bit back that the Chronorium actually changes depending on who is reading it. So this opens up a lot of different possibilities, and it gives a theory as to perhaps the explanations and the truth behind what the loading screens actually mean for previous Zombies maps and the ones that we've been getting at the end of each comic book thus far. While we'll be taking a look at two sides of this theory here in this video, it is just that, a theory. So take it with a grain of salt, keep your minds open here for this, and of course feel free to add to the discussion down there in the comment section down below if you have anything that you want to toss out there. But as mentioned, this theory is going to focus on the loading screens and of course what this may derive from, that being the Chronorium, based off of the information changing depending on who in fact is reading the Chronorium at the time. Now the theory is formulated by Batman00 Superman on Reddit as well as user Ed935. They coincidentally actually posted almost the same thing at the same time over there, but the community's kind of gathered around to bridge the gap between these two and basically use these as just a platform to discuss this idea a little bit further. But they go that perhaps the loading screens that we see, the comic book nature of each loading screen from every Zombies map, is perhaps the Chronorium showing the events and what has happened in the perspective of either Samantha or Stullinger. Let's start out with Stullinger here because this actually has some concrete evidence to it, something that said that he did in fact read the Chronorium. This comes once again from the Zombies comic number 5. I'll toss up the frame on screen right now for you guys, and in the second row of panels you'll be able to see that he jumps down and it says, "That was my knee, yes it hurt. Of course I have it," meaning he's talking to Richtofen in his head. This book has lots of pretty pictures in it. Now this is where we have to jump back and once again take a look at what we know of is in the Chronorium. Right now, one of the big things that we've known of is the timeline that we have given to us from World at War to Black Ops 3 with the different dimensions and all that kind of stuff surrounding in it. There's a lot of information on that, but we do know that that's from Richtofen's perspective. That timeline is what is in the Chronorium when Richtofen is reading it. That is from his perspective. So that of course could be subject to change if somebody else is reading it. But if it's from Richtofen's perspective, the one that we have, the timeline that we have seen is basically all text. It is something that takes quite a bit of time to read. It's well worth the read if you guys have not read it already, but it does take quite some time, and here and there are some sketches in the backdrop. That's about it. But we don't really see all that much mention of pictures. However, Stullinger ends up reading this in the Zombies comic, and he mentions that it has a lot of pretty pictures in it. Something that we don't see all that many in what we've known of from Richtofen's perspective, so perhaps this is the way that the Chronorium relays the information to Stullinger. Now, while even the game files refer to Stullinger as reporter and all the other information that we have on him thus far, it's not like the man's illiterate. So this sort of timeline that we saw given to us with all the text is something that definitely could have been a viable option to showcase to Stullinger. But if this is in fact the case, what's the prerogative and meaning for all the images rather than perhaps say text? But then you can say maybe flash over to another version, perhaps it's something where Samantha is reading the Chronorium, because that would make a little bit more sense in terms of loading screens, information being relayed, giving the storyline information up to date, and some different backstory characteristics of the zombie storyline overall. That kind of stuff could definitely be relayed easily to a child reading a comic book. That's something that while comic books are for all ages, of course, you'd more than likely see a child reading a comic book with many images and less text rather than, say, a Stephen King novel. As for when those events would happen, as for Samantha or perhaps any of the other children in the house reading the Chronorium, when would this happen? When would we even be able to see this sort of catch-up being played? Maybe it's real time as the events unfold, or maybe it's a recap and everything thus far that we've seen in loading screens has taken place actually after the events. So say Samantha is reading the information, getting caught up on it, and the comic book loading screens end up actually being from the events that happened before the ending of Black Ops 3 Zombies. It'd be an interesting way to actually put all this together and make it so that we see not only the example of the Chronorium being able to showcase its knowledge to anyone else and in different various platforms and mediums, but it also could show that there might be a little bit more deeper meaning or centralized tie-in from everything that we've had thus far to one singular point, that being the Chronorium. So I thought it was a very interesting theory, and of course, it is just that, a theory, just speculation, and throwing something at the dartboard to see if it sticks. And I think that this might be an interesting approach to it all. Perhaps it is true, perhaps it's not, and it's way off the mark. We have no idea, but the thought itself was very intriguing, and the fact that we had a clear showcase that Stullinger read the Chronorium as well after retrieving it, that to me is very thought-provoking and something that definitely warrants a discussion here for something similar, because we did have this information given to us that it does change depending on the person, but we hadn't really had any sort of explanation or detailed accounts of how this would change in what way. So personally, I think this is a very good theory. I think that it does have some possibilities to have some merit behind it, but of course, once again, we won't know until, well, I guess we don't even know when that will be, but regardless, let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. That's gonna wrap it up. Just wanna get your feedback here on this little discussion, this theory on perhaps the comic book loading screens from every single Zombies map thus far has actually been the storyline being relayed to either Samantha or Stullinger from their perhaps read-throughs of the Chronorium and their perspective of it, which does alter how the information is showcased. Love to hear your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Believe it, don't believe it, love it, hate it, whatever it may be, feel free to drop your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. But that's gonna wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe to stay up to date with everything we have here regarding Zombies Chronicles, zombies in general, Black Ops 3 multiplayer, Call of Duty World War II multiplayer, and zombies, Modern Warfare Mastered, all that good stuff. We got you covered here up on the channel. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube. I practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to straight up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that said and out of the way, hopefully you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Nikolai Espresso. Take care, and peace.